مواقع استراتيجية زي الرنج، ملكال وباليت. بتوفر آي راديو تغطية شاملة بتصل إلى كل من المراكز الحضرية والمناطق الريفية. بتضمن شراكتك مع آي راديو الرؤية عبر منطقة جغرافية واسعة.
ما تفوت فرصة توسيع نطاق رسالتك باستخدام آي راديو. شارك أو أعلن معنا الليلة وخلي صوتك مسموع في جميع أنحاء جنوب السودان.
Live from Juba, on air and online.
This is iRadio News.
Hello, good morning. This is iRadio News. First, here are the headlines. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security says it has completed the controversial deportation of the illegal migrants to the country, confirming that 8 men, including one South Sudanese, arrived on Friday night. The Undersecretary of the National Ministry of Peacebuilding, Pierre-Philippe Michael, has called for the empowerment of women in the security sector, saying this will promote national pride and lasting stability in South Sudan. And Uganda's long-serving President Yoweri Museveni has been declared the governing party's candidate in next year's presidential election, opening the way for him to seek to extend his nearly 40 years in power. These stories and more coming to you in this news bulletin with me, Lasuba Memo, and now the news in detail. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security says it has completed the controversial deportation of the illegal migrants to the country, confirming that 8 men, including one South Sudanese, arrived on Friday night. Tricia McLaughlin, the spokesperson of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, on Saturday said the deportees arrived in South Sudan, although authorities in Juba have yet to confirm the report. She says in a statement, and I quote, "These seekers were finally deported to South Sudan on Independence Day," end quote. The deportation came after the U.S. Supreme Court last week allowed the U.S. authorities to go ahead with the deportation after their relocation to South Sudan was delayed in May. The migrants include one South Sudanese citizen, Diane Peter Domach, convicted of robbery, and 7 others from countries such as Cuba, Mexico, Burma, Laos, and Vietnam. The migrants are convicted of various serious crimes, including child abuse, rape, and murder. The 8 men had been held at a U.S. military base in Djibouti after the deportation was halted by a court ruling in May. Despite the reports of the migrants arriving in the country, authorities in Juba have not released any statement about their arrival. The government has also remained tight-lipped about the details of the deal reached between the U.S. authorities to allow for the deportation of migrants not native to the country. In April, the American government revoked visas issued to South Sudanese passport holders after Juba authorities refused to accept a controversial migrant named Nimeri Garang, saying the deportee was a Congolese national identified as Makula Kentu instead. The government later accepted to admit Makula after the diplomatic tensions between the two countries further deteriorated. 9 SSPDF soldiers have been handed various sentences, including stripping of ranks and dismissal from the service in Western Bahr El Ghazal state. Jokrir Kamal Machoud, South Sudan's People's Defense Forces legal counsel, told iRadio 2 soldiers were sentenced to 7 and 10 years for rape crimes, respectively. He said in another conviction, a civilian received a 2-year sentence for killing 2 soldiers and was ordered to pay blood compensation. Machoud, who is the legal counsel of the SSPDF Division 5 based in Wau, says the convictions are a step towards accountability within the military. The tribunal, deployed by the SSPDF's Military Justice Directorate with support from the United Nations Mission in South Sudan, had over 20 cases involving murder, sexual gender-based violence, and misconduct. Machoud said the General Court-Martial's ruling will promote accountability and restore public trust in the armed forces. He spoke to iRadio from Western Bahr El Ghazal state over the weekend. The official also said the military recently carried out a public awareness campaign encouraging civilians to report crimes without fear. The Undersecretary of the National Ministry of Peacebuilding, Pierre-Philippe Michael, has called for the empowerment of women in the security sector, saying this will promote national pride and lasting stability in South Sudan. Speaking on Saturday during the closing ceremony of a two-day training workshop, Pierre emphasized the importance of providing women with opportunities to serve in security roles. He urged male counterparts to offer their support and collaboration. South Sudan has faced a series of devastating conflicts, including civil wars in 2013 and 2016 since gaining independence in 2011. According to Peace Rep, the recurring violence has deepened national trauma, eroded trust, displaced countless families, and left emotional scars that are often invisible. Also speaking at the event, Lieutenant Colonel Harriet Fozia Giniba, Executive Director of the Women in South Sudan Security Network, appealed to male leaders across all organized forces to support inclusive security reforms. The training program aimed at equipping women in uniform with trauma counseling skills was organized by UN Women, Hope Africa, and Peacebuilding Funding in partnership with the Ministry of Peacebuilding. It was held under the theme Harnessing Trauma Healing Support Services for Women Security Personnel. This is iRadio Morning News, and now to the international scene. Uganda's long-serving President Yoweri Museveni, now 80 years old, has been declared the governing party's candidate in next year's presidential election, opening the way for him to seek to extend his nearly 40 years in power. In his acceptance speech, Museveni said that he had responded to the call and, if elected, would press ahead with his mission to turn Uganda into a high middle-income country. Museveni's critics say he has ruled with an iron hand since he seized power as a rebel leader in 1986. He has won every election held since then, and the constitution has been amended twice to remove age and term limits to allow him to remain in office. Finally, at least 78 people have been confirmed dead in Central Texas, and another 41 are missing following flash floods on Friday. 68 of the fatalities, including 28 children, occurred in Kerr County, where a Riverside Christian girls' camp was deluged. 10 girls and a counselor from Camp Mystic are still missing. Officials say the death toll is certain to rise. This is iRadio Morning News, and to end this bulletin, here's a recap of the headlines. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security says it has completed the controversial deportation of the illegal migrants to the country, confirming that 8 men, including 1 South Sudanese, arrived on Friday night. The Undersecretary of the National Ministry of Peacebuilding, Pierre-Philippe Michael, has called for the empowerment of women in the security sector, saying this will promote national pride and lasting stability in South Sudan. And Uganda's long-serving President Yoweri Museveni, now 80 years old, has been declared the governing party's candidate in next year's presidential election, opening the way for him to seek to extend his nearly 40 years in power. That's the end of iRadio Morning News. If there is a story or an event you'd like iRadio to cover or report about, please send us a text message at +211 925 287 870. It's also our WhatsApp number. Follow us on X at iRadio Juba. Like our Facebook page, iRadio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at iRadio South Sudan. You can also visit our website and listen to us online at www.iradio.org. Stay tuned for news in Arabic at 8 o'clock. I'm Lasuba Memo. Thanks for listening.